Hi, this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
And another edition of the ML Sports Platter. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Go ahead and download and subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, iHeart, Amazon, you name it, and leave a 5-star review in full and a comment with some feedback and all the rest. Really, really does go a long way. We are presented by Stanley Law Offices, Liverpool Physical Therapy, and our great friends at Camillus Golf Club. If you're in and around the great state of New York, Central New York, etc., go play Camillus. Golfers travel, go travel and play Camillus Golf Club. Stop by afterwards for a great meal and a beer after your round. They've got awesome greens, awesome views, and it's a terrific place to be. Still can get a membership for 2021 as well. Camillus Golf Club, the official golf course of the ML Sports Platter. So before I bring in my man Bob Ehalt, National Horse Racing Insider, to break down the Preakness, what we saw, just an awesome race, and kind of how it sets up for the Belmont and how it sets up for the rest of the horse racing season. Definitely want to just hit on a couple of quick topics. Number one, the NHL playoffs are just, to me, there's nothing that matches the hockey playoffs. I mean, the passion, the intensity, the blood, sweat, tears, and guts, with fans back in the arena now. I know it's not full capacity, but man, it's full enough, and it's lively, not quite to the top, but man, compared to that silly bubble last year, goodness, the NHL playoffs are just really, really, I mean, they're back, We just need that last, 4, 5, 6,000 fans in the building. I don't know what, capacity is for a lot of these for a lot of these arenas, but man, I think it's pretty darn great to have a lot of fans back and to have the cheering. And, I was absolutely glued to my television for the NHL for the Stanley Cup playoffs all Sunday. 3 of the games went to overtime. As you hear this podcast on a Thursday, obviously it'll be just a few days ago, and we'll have seen many more games, and these series will start to take shape by the time you hear this. But it got off and running with some great stuff. 3 overtime games. The Islanders beat the Pens in OT. The Wild took care of business in OT against the Knights. The Lightning beat the Panthers in probably the best game of all of them. The Flames were up big, let the Canucks back, and then beat them in OT. And there were just crazy goals, amazing breakaways, tip-ins, great saves, back and forths. Your superstars came to play. Kyle Palmieri, I think, could be, and he proved it in Game 1. Kyle Palmieri could be a big difference maker for the Islanders. Remember, he came over with in that deal with New Jersey, and he was probably the one guy. Devils fans were like, just don't trade him to the Islanders, right? Like, just don't trade him there. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I remember Palmieri playing for the Syracuse Crunch. And I watched his games every single night. I was working at the time for the Crunch. And, when they were an Anaheim affiliate and or covering them, as a working member for the media. And there was a time when Bryce Harper and Kyle Palmieri and Steven Strasburg and all these guys were coming through, Syracuse, and I said to myself, man, Kyle Palmieri might be the best athlete in Central New York. That includes Syracuse basketball. That includes Syracuse football. Again, some were in season, some were off season, but really, really, really great player, and is a guy who, look, he's not a spring chicken anymore, but he's still young enough And he's just been a really, really good. He's 30 years old. He's still got, another solid, probably 6, 7, 8 years to play. Keeps himself in unbelievable shape. Work ethic is incredible. But he could be the big difference maker for this Islander group. I think the Islanders are a really good team. And I've heard many people pick the Islanders over the Penguins. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders won this series. I really wouldn't be. You've got big-time players, speed, major goaltending by Sorokin in that game one. The Islanders are a scary bunch. They're a lunch bucket group that just goes out and outworks you and outskates you. They remind me a lot of the old, Hasek Sabres, where they can get major goaltending from Sorokin. And although I think this team can score probably better than many of those clubs, although that couple of those teams went pretty far in the postseason. Obviously, they lost in the East Finals in '98, and then the Stanley Cup Finals in 1999. But this Islander team can win the low-scoring affair, and they certainly can win a little bit of a high-scoring contest. And they did that in Game 1. And again, I'm not going to be surprised if they win this series. I mean, look at Eberle, you look at Bailey, you look at Palmieri. They have a very good, solid, disciplined nucleus of defensemen, and I mentioned Sorokin. I mean, this is a really good hockey team. And I know the Penguins are a lot more, Getzel, Crosby. They pick up Jeff Carter. They're more superstar laden. But the Islanders can win this series with speed and outworking them. They really could. It's gonna be a great series right to the end. I think all these series are going to be amazing. You've got the Wild and the Golden Knights. I think the Golden Knights were going into the postseason as honestly one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire NHL. I would have put them in Colorado probably, right at the top, but the Wild gave it to them in overtime. Vegas just couldn't get one past. It'd be very interesting to see, if the Wild can hang in there. The Wild were one of the best teams going in as well. That series, any of these go 7, I'm not going to be surprised. What can you say about Florida and Tampa, right? I mean, Florida is a really good team. Barkov really deserves a lot more credit, a lot more accolades in terms of how good this guy is. He's a 25-year-old center, 6'3", 215. Again, he goes along with a prototype of McDavid and Eichel and Matthews and Pastrnak and Patrick Laine, right, and Draisaitl, and all these guys, all these young, fast, big, skilled players who are some of the best players, in the NHL. And he's unstoppable on the ice. I mean, he really is. He's an unbelievable passer. He can dart up the ice on his own and get the pass. He controls and patrols the middle of the ice in terms of the play, in terms of the power play. He sets people up beautifully. Odd man rushes and all the rest. He's a great finisher. He's really one of the truly terrific, great players in the NHL right now. But the Lightning keep answering. It's like the Tampa Bay Lightning. If you said, "Oh my gosh, all the stars on the Lightning," you start listing them. You start you keep going, and then all of a sudden you forget a guy or two, right? You just do, because they have so many guys. And now Nikita Kucherov is back, a guy who missed the entire regular season, and he scores twice in Game 1 against Florida. He is the ultimate, probably him, Ovechkin. Crosby still gets it done, but man, the top echelon players in the NHL on the power play, Kucherov is one of those guys. His finish to a one-timer is one of the sickest things you'll watch in the NHL. They hit you with Kucherov. They hit you with Stamkos. They hit you with Braden Point, who scored 2 in Game 1, by the way. They hit you with Tyler Johnson. They hit you with Matthew Joseph and Cirelli. I mean, they hit you with player after player after player after player. And just please do not, if you're the opposition, give this team, a power play. Because, and I just mentioned all those guys quickly, didn't mention Palat, Killorn, the veteran Maroon, right? I mean, who won 2 Stanley Cups in a row, right? I mean, he won one with Tampa last year, and then he won one the year before with St. Louis. Their defense is phenomenal. Victor Hedman's been the best defenseman for the last few years, hands down, in the NHL. They move the puck so fast from the back end up to the top, and if the defensemen don't have the puck, the offensive guys take care of it, and the defensemen rush the play late, and they can still finish. Their defensemen play like forwards, and their forwards can play like defensemen. That's how ridiculous this team is. They're so versatile. They're so at it. They're so up and down. They're so good. Ryan McDonough, you've got Savard and Hedman and Cernak and Sergachev. You know, the Lightning, I mean, I think they had the look for quite a while of getting into the playoffs and being a repeat champ here. You know, we haven't had one in quite a while here. And this Lightning team, again, I've loved to watch them play. Obviously a little bit close to home for me because, you know, a lot of the players who came through Syracuse, are playing for Tampa Bay. I mean, a host of them, well over half the roster. And they're just exciting, man. And like I said, when you list players and you go Kucherov, Palat, Stamkos, right? Like Coleman, Point, man, they're really good. And you, did I forget? Oh, I forgot Joseph. I forgot Johnson. I forgot, Yanni Gord, all these guys. Braden Point, by the way, I think is a top 10 player in the NHL. He might be a top 5 player in terms of clutch genes. You look at what he did last year in the Cup run, scoring pretty much every single big goal you could find, and then off and running here as well with this Lightning group. So, in the 2021 Stanley Cup Final. So just an outstanding job here by the NHL, getting it going. The playoff games have been spectacular. The intensity, the blood, sweat, tears, and guts. I just think, again, I think the NBA, I haven't watched any NBA all year. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the postseason because of the woke cancel culture, bullcrap, LeBron, China, all that stuff roped into one. I don't know if I'm even going to entertain it. I do want to flip on and see some Steph Curry because I love me some Steph Curry. I don't know how much of the NBA playoffs I will get into. Certainly, if it's a crazy great matchup in the finals, I may tune in here and there. I don't know. The league has just been so sour to me. They've offended me and offended many others with their political stances, their social crap, the inconsistencies of everything, the BLM movement, which is utter horse crap in the way they promote it and talk about it. They don't even know what they're talking about. They want to, continue to fight that and have that be, one of the big selling points and branding points of the league. But yet, do you also realize that BLM promotes split homes and it promotes bad things? And the BLM movement has actually caused more violence than before we even knew what the hell it was. And I understand it was created from George Floyd, and I understand it was created from a lot of the other things that have gone on. The Jacob Blake thing was not the same thing as the George Floyd thing. But the NBA players, LeBron and his cronies, they continue to make everything about, the same exact thing. Every single thing that happens with the police, it's all the same. Every single situation's the same. It's like trying to slice a pizza in New York City, Chicago, Syracuse, Philadelphia, Jersey, and Wisconsin, and saying, well, they all taste the same. No, they don't. They don't taste the same. So I don't know what I'm going to watch with the NBA thing. Postseasons are amazing across the board, right? Collegiate, pro. I mean, we love March Madness. We love the baseball postseason. I love, obviously, the NFL is amazing, but there's something about the NHL for me that puts it above all of them with just the intensity, the excitement, the amazement, the blood, sweat, tears, guts, you name it, is just really, 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 really great stuff. Really, really great stuff. Wanted to spend a few minutes before I bring Bob Ehalt in, dedicating this podcast and, some thoughts here to just a great man. A guy who recently passed away at the age of 88, who was a pillar in the Central New York community. He was my family doctor forever. And that's Dr. Ronald Dougherty, who passed away. His obit is obviously, all over. There was a great article on Syracuse.com written about him. His obit you can find at MauerFuneralHome.com. And, just some thoughts about Doc Dougherty, a guy who was so instrumental in the practicing of medicine and a guy who did so many unbelievable things, for drug addicts. He would get calls at 2, 3 in the morning, and need, someone would need help. There's a heroin addict, there's a this addict, there's somebody he's on the brink, she's on the brink, whatever the case, and he would drop everything and go pull an all-nighter, and help people. He was a member of more medical boards and drug abuse boards and councils. I mean, from the New York State Advisory Council on Drug Abuse, the Medical Society of the State of New York Chairman, Committee on Drug Abuse, American Academy of Family Physicians. It's on and on and on. In his obit, it's listed the accomplishments, it's unbelievable. He received Distinguished Service Award from the Onondaga County Medical Society, the Brady Award, recognized by the Diocese of Syracuse for his work at St. Mary's, the Catholic Standard as an outstanding alumnus in the field of science and medicine from the nation's Jesuit colleges and universities. The stuff he accomplished, it's unbelievable. Onondaga Council on Alcoholism and Addiction, Award of Excellence, Pride Program Services and Support, Recovering Community. He touched so many people. He born and bred, Central New Yorker, born in the city of Syracuse, graduated from Lemoyne, received his MD degree from Upstate Medical, and interned at St. Joe's, received a surgical residency at Upstate Medical Center in 1958. By the way, he served in the U.S. Army as a medical reserve, obtaining the rank of captain. You want to talk about accomplishment, you want to talk about resume, you want to talk about caring for others, you want to talk about dedication, you want to talk about perfection in his craft, you want to talk about creativity. He was a pillar in our community, a huge staple, influence. And I'll tell you just a couple of quick little things to end here, because I really wanted to do something and say something about Doc in this podcast. Used to do this kind of stuff all the time on the radio, as far as, dedicating shows to people. When I was really, really little, and I don't know, maybe I was 3 or 4-ish. I couldn't have been any more than 4 or 5. I don't think. I was at home, and I lived right near Dr. Dougherty's, office. We would go there as little kids, and that was another thing. He made going to the doctor fun. A lot of kids are scared going, and he made it fun. You walked in and you saw, the stuffed fish, and he would talk to you and play games with you and, sing to you and different things and make you just feel like you were actually at like a playground instead of the doctor's office. He had that way about him, and his complete staff was like that too. But I was jumping around in my bedroom at home as a little tyke, and I tripped. I was in my underpants, and I had my shorts down to my ankles, and I was just jumping around being a derelict, and I tripped, and I slashed my ear on my bedpost, and of course, my parents were worried, freaking out. My mom called him immediately. It was like, Ron, Mike he's bleeding all over the place. He split his ear, and he said, bring him right down, calm my mom to a degree that I guess you could call it calming her, right? And we went right in there. I don't remember it second for second because I was so little. But I remember many times going there in my childhood, in my early adult life, through grade school, high school. Just an unbelievable human being. And he stitched me right up. It was late at night, too. It was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I don't know what I was doing. I probably wouldn't go to bed, so I was just hopping around being a prick. And, but I fall and watch him, and I, slashed it. So he went and whip, and just, whip that ear right back into shape and just gave me those stitches right. And I still have a little bit of a mark from that injury and those stitches. And you know what I can do though? I can look at at the stitches right there, and I can see that little mark, right? And I can say that Doc Dougherty did that. He fixed me up. So condolences to everybody. Ronald Dougherty was just an unbelievable guy. 1932 to 2021. Again, his obit on MauerFuneralHome.com, and the great article with his practices and all the rest on Syracuse.com. Terrific stuff. Condolences to all. And thanks, Doc, for everything that you did for each and every one of us. The ML Sports Platter brought to you by our great friends at Bryant and Stratton College and Barks and Rec Doggy Daycare. Let's bring him in. National horse racing writer and insider, Bob Ehalt. You can get him on Twitter at Bob Ehalt, sports and turf writer, New York-based correspondent for Blood Horse, founder of New York Hot List Handicapping Service. Go visit him online at bloodhorse.com, and again on Twitter at Bob Ehalt. Bobby, welcome back. Long time, no time here, pal. How are you?
Oh, always a pleasure to chat with you, Mike.
So let's get into the Preakness here. What a great run it was for Rombauer, right? At 11-1. I mean, he kind of blew by the favorites down that stretch run. He was really the only one who had that major finishing feel. What did you see out of that horse from beginning to end, and especially at the end?
Well, he got a really nice trip. Good ride by Flavian Pratt. And certainly, yes, as you say, he was the only horse doing any kind of running in the stretch. Much the best, no doubt about that. He was the best horse on this day. He got helped by a pretty, quick pace that it did help him. But certainly, you have to tip your hat to him that he won very impressively. You kind of wonder maybe would that have been the kind of run that could have won the Derby? They were talking about running there, but certainly. I think the combination of how good he ran, and for some of the others coming back from the Derby, the second and third place horses, Medina Spirit and Midnight Bourbon, coming back from the Derby on 2 weeks, I think everything fell into place for him perfectly.
No doubt. What's next for this horse? Right off to the Belmont?
Pretty much, I think it's going to be the Belmont. The owner believes this horse has a future on grass, and it will be interesting. If he does, of course, if he wins the Belmont, he's going to be a dirt horse, where they'll probably look to races like the Travers to kind of cement the 3-year-old championship. But say if things don't go as well at Belmont Park as they did at Pimlico, the owner's intrigued by his grass potential, and Naira has what they call a turf triple, or they call it a turf trinity, of $3 million turf races, and you might see him in one of those if they feel, like I say, if he doesn't run to expectations at the Belmont.
So Medina Spirit, obviously, with the controversy, and Bob Baffert, we're still waiting, right, to see what's going to happen here. I mean, the Kentucky Derby win is still right now in question. If they get a split sample, right, they're going to strip them.
Pretty much so. Yes, unless if the split sample comes back positive, he will be stripped unless there's some kind of extraordinary circumstance with contamination and things like that. I mean, I would think the split sample would force the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission to have him vacate the victory, and then you'll see a legal battle that could conceivably take several years if the Baffert and Amir Zadeh, the owner, decide to put up that kind of legal fight, hoping that they can get a contamination or something like that to overturn.
Yeah, Bob Ehalt with us, of course, National Horse Racing Insider and writer, bloodhorse.com. Go get him on Twitter as well, at Bob Ehalt. When it all went down, when we found out about Medina Spirit after the Derby, what went through your head? What did you think? And then Baffert obviously addressed the media a couple times and talked, out both sides of his mouth. What was your reaction as that was going on post-Derby?
Well, it was a pretty shocking Sunday morning when the announcement came. It came out of Kentucky. I was home here in Connecticut. You're reading about it, and you're just saying, "No, I don't. This isn't possible."
Right.
And Bob is saying, "I didn't administer the horse with anything," and so you really don't know what to think. And I mean, it is in this sport. It is easy to get some readings that will cause these things. I mean, in a previous instance, there was a positive link to lidocaine, and it turns out that Bob's assistant was using for a back problem lidocaine. So you basically, maybe you could say something was sloppy, but you didn't think that there was an intentional injection or something like that, because some of these drugs just don't have a great impact on changing a horse's ability. With this one, certainly you came out and Bob was adamant that he didn't treat the horse. So you sort of wondered what was going on. And then then the story just starts changing, where you hear, I thought, bringing up, talking about what could be urine in hay. And then when he announced on Tuesday that he had treated the horse with a topical drug that had the banned substance,
right?
It was like, wow, what? Okay, now come on, what's going on?
It reminded me of Ryan Braun. You know, remember that?
Yeah.
I never took. Oh well, somebody else put him in there for me. But my male guys did it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point. So I mean, even if you're saying to me, well, this is where the drug came from. Well, it's almost like an admission that the positive is real, because you put a substance in that you probably shouldn't have so close to the race. And when you look at it, if you look at pictures of the horse, he was treated for they said he was treated for a significant time with the drug. It didn't work. Yeah. And, if you talk to some other horsemen, they'll say, well, I might have tried it for 2 or 3 days, and if it didn't work, you would stop. So why he kept using it, there was just... it's just total chaos, because I think there is the heavy consensus is that this horse is going to be disqualified at some point. And then if he won the Preakness, if you get an injunction, it stands, and then you go to the Belmont Stakes with a chance for a Triple Crown that could ultimately be stripped. So it certainly put a big cloud over the Preakness, and I do think there were a lot of quarters where there was signs of relief that Medina Spirit did lose, because at least now the controversy is centered on one race as opposed to a whole series.
Okay, so with this Preakness, with Rombauer taking it, obviously we've covered Medina Spirit, what could happen here in the near future as we record this. Go around a little bit some of the other horses. Did anything stand out either in a positive or negative way? Concert Tour, Midnight Bourbon, some of these others that were in the race. Did anything stand out positively or negatively? Surprises in between? What did you see from the rest of the field?
Well, I think you do have to tip your hat to Medina Spirit. He ran a good race.
He did.
Midnight Bourbon ran some good races. Midnight Bourbon made Medina Spirit work, and I think they turned in a heck of a good race. I'm not sure if they're 1.25 mile horses. Maybe Medina Spirit having a little more. And they said he's lighter framed, and maybe he couldn't handle the 2 weeks as much as other horses. But I think they're going to be good horses in races like the Haskell and such like that. Then, we're going to see from the Belmont, maybe we get back Essential Quality, the beaten favorite in the Derby. And then some of the others you will see about, maybe like Known Agenda, who I think had a trouble trip in the Derby for Todd Pletcher. Rock Your World, he had a trouble trip in the Derby. And when those horses start coming back, run in the Belmont, and maybe the filly, there's a filly Malathat who won the Kentucky Oaks. We'll see where she stands with everything. So I think, those are kind of going to be some of the main horses to watch as the year goes on.
And obviously, as it develops, we got a lot coming up. We've got Saratoga, we got the Haskell, so many awesome things. And Bob, we're all pumped up because every day we're getting closer to where we were before Corona hit. And horse racing, man, last year it was a flipped calendar, still got the races in, still happy about that, but it was still weird. It was still off. I'm sure you would agree with that, covering the sport the way you do. But this year, the roar of the crowd, when they're coming down that home stretch and the packed houses at Saratoga and the music and the sunshine and the races, and being back's going to be unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement at Saratoga this year. I mean, I think they're hoping they can get at least about 15,000 fans. They had 10,000 at Pimlico Saturday, and it was fine. It felt comfortable. These are facilities that can hold 50,000. So when you're only putting in like 10,000, 15,000, maybe even 20, they're only half full. Yeah. So there's a lot of room for everybody. And I think, as I say, hopefully we're not too long before we can go back to everybody can sit next to each other and we get back to the 50,000 cap at Saratoga.
So this Rombauer horse, do you see this horse running as much? I know it's kind of hard before the Belmont to predict it, but looking deeper into the year, do you think that this horse runs in the majority of these stakes races here, Bob?
I think it's going to be hard to say. His owner, the best way I think I could put it is he's very pragmatic. I mean, they only have like 2 or 3 horses. I mean, they're not one, shall we say, one of these big outfits. So if everything went well for him in the Preakness. Now he's going to be the one coming back on the short rest at the Belmont. He is. So is he going to be able to win the Belmont? And if he finishes, say, 5th or 6th, again, I think it gives the owner the ammunition he needs to tell the trader, well, look, there's this $1 million Saratoga Derby, I think, did the early weeks of August at Saratoga. I want to run there as opposed to the Travers.
Right.
We don't know. A lot's going to be there. Now, certainly, I think winning one leg of the Triple Crown puts you in the picture for 3-year-old champion. And it's going to be, do they decide to chase that and stay on the turf and then say, well, look, maybe when he's 4, we'll go on the turf? Or does the owner just say, look, I want to try, maybe the fact if in a year where if he wins a Grade 1 or a major turf race, wins the Preakness, that he could pull out a championship. It's really hard to tell with this horse. But I would tend to think his schedule would probably be the Belmont, point to the Travers more so than the Haskell. He doesn't look like a Haskell speed type horse. And then kind of you go from there. You see what race do you want to get you ready for the Breeders' Cup.
A couple more quick questions for Bob Ehalt, the sensational horse racing insider and writer, bloodhorse.com, on Twitter at Bob Ehalt. Bob, I just want to touch on a few just general topics inside the sport here. Jockeys, getting into some of these jockeys, they obviously amaze me at all ages, but the rise of the Ortiz brothers, when did they really, do you think, kind of arrive on the scene here? And I've been told by multiple people, Todd Height has told me this, he thinks Irad Ortiz is the best jockey in the sport right now. What about those two, coming on the scene? And man, the recent success of Irad's been unbelievable.
Well, I mean, Irad, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't get an exact date, but they've been around for several years. I mean, Irad and I think his brother started winning Eclipse Awards around in 2018. So they have been just dominant in New York, which shows at a young age of just how good they are. And they were kind of working a lot with Chad Brown. Now they're extending. You'll see them with Todd Fletcher. You'll see people. You saw Irad was on writing for Steve Asmussen in Midnight Bourbon. There's all these type of things. They certainly are young talents who are gonna dominate. They're gonna dominate the game for a long time. When you realize that they're still in their 20s.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. When you look at the overall sport right now, is it healthy? Is it in a good spot? I know the post Derby thing with Baffert and Medina Spirit didn't help, but is the sport healthy? Right now, Bob.
I think it is. I mean, I've been hearing I've been following the game since 1971, and so for the last 50 years, I've been hearing about the sport is in trouble. Look, it's never going to be the NFL. I mean, let's face it, except for maybe one day, Kentucky Derby Day, it's going to have a lot of people across the country watching it. But it's going to survive. It's going to survive in a different mode now, as shown. The Preakness set an all-time wagering record, Preakness Day at Pimlico, and there were only 10,000 people. Now, in the past, you generally needed a crowd of like 150,000 on hand to set records. People are now wagering from home. They're betting from their phones. They're seeing that it's a way of people love to gamble, no matter what people say. Gambling is at the root of all sports popularity. And when the fact that people are seeing now that they could just bet through their phone, watch the races on their phone, or watch these channels like Naira does a great TV sports too. I think it's in good shape. It needs to clean some things up. These drug issues create a problem. You've got to clean it up, but they did pass the Horse Racing Integrity Act that within about a year, we'll be seeing the impact of that, and I think that will help on that front.
Final one for you: horse racing on turf, on dirt. Do you prefer one over the other? Similarities, differences in terms of those two, Bob?
Well, I kind of say, I mean, it just depends. Dirt is still in the United States. The major races are on dirt.
Yeah.
The Triple Crown, the Haskell, the Travers, the Whitney, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. They're all still our major horses are dirt stars. So I enjoy that. From a handicapping standpoint, I like the dirt because it's a lot. There's not as many variables. Turf racing, I kind of enjoy when I want to chase a price because, sometimes on the turf, you're very reliant on the bloodlines. Does a horse like turf when the first time it tries it? You could gamble on that. And then trip. There's a lot of bad trips in turf races because, you have a tighter turns, 12-horse fields. A lot can happen. Usually, if I wheel a race, means I'm betting like one horse with everybody else, the times I wheel is on the turf, because you just don't know what's going to happen. With the dirt, you have a little bit more of an idea of how the horses ran last time will impact how they run this time.
Bob Ehalt on Twitter, at Bob Ehalt, the sensational sports and turf writer, New York-based correspondent for Blood Horse. Get him at bloodhorse.com, founder of New York Hot List handicapping service as well. Bob, it's so awesome to catch up with you again, my man. Hopefully I'll see you down the line here this year, and if not this year, then very soon here at a track near you, probably Saratoga, considering our geographic locations. That's where we met the first time, I believe, when Farrow was there, which was really cool. So really great to have you on again. Kay, keep up the awesome work, man. The site looks great.
Thanks, Mike. Same to you. Keep doing your great job, and maybe I'll see you up at the spa.
The ML Sports Platter is brought to you by our great friend Brian Conboy of Mass Mutual in New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning today with Brian. Go with him. We did. Super pumped up about our future. Whether you're sending a youngster to school or you're retiring, whatever the case may be, you got to have those finances set and ready to go. Brian Conboy, Mass Mutual, New York State, the official financial advisor of the ML Sports Platter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and at advisors.massmutual.com. That's advisors.massmutual.com. And a big tip of the cap thank you as well to Rosie's Corner, Sit Means Sit Syracuse, CNY Electrical, and our good pals over at Welch & Company Jewelers. Engagement rings, wedding rings, bracelets, necklaces, you name it. Go ahead and log on to welchjewelers.com, shop the showcase, ask an expert. All you need in jewelry is right there, the best around. Welch & Company Jewelers, the official jewelry shop of the ML Sports Platter. Shop online, shop the showcase, welchjewelers.com. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review for the ML Sports Platter all over the major platforms where you get your podcasts. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L. Sports. Thanks again to Bob Ehalt for joining and talking Preakness and the sport of horse racing, one of the best in the business. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.